welcome. I'm so excited to have you here. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you so much, Katie. I love being here. It's a surreal moment for me as I've kind of been a fanboy of yours for like the past decade. I know I shared that with you earlier, but you were one of the OG influencers way back in the day. And I just love being on your show and the education that you put out there. I've listened to a bunch of your podcasts. So thanks for having me on.
Oh, well, thank you. And I'm so excited for this conversation because I've also followed your work for quite some time, and I know how much research you put into everything that you create. And to our audience of moms specifically today, I'm really excited to dive deep on a few topics that you are certainly an expert about and to build understanding, dispel some myths, and just create tools and takeaways that are especially beneficial for moms. And in this first conversation, I especially want to dive deep on the topic of adaptogens and superfoods because I feel like a lot of these are circulating on social media right now. And there's a whole lot of information circulating, and certainly a case that we all need to be taking 100 different types of these things every single day to get the benefits. And I know that you've done deep dive research into a lot of these and also work to create things that sort of simplify and get people the stuff they actually need in an easy format. But to start broad, I would love for you to kind of introduce us to the topic of adaptogens and superfoods and some of the things that are in this category right now.
Yeah, so for me, and I've read some of the posts that you've put on your website and whatnot too. Knowing that there's about 80,000 new toxins in our environment every year, knowing how important it is to protect the human body. I call it the miracle multidimensional suit. We have, I like to call them miracle foods, and those would be superfoods. Things that are higher in nutrition than normal food. Because most of the quote unquote normal food, especially in America, it's been robbed of minerals or soil. It's inept of magnesium and some of these other precious minerals that we have. So superfoods I like to use as a combatant towards our recommended daily value, which is kind of funny. The RDAs were created in World War II, and they wanted people to get the recommended daily allowance of vitamins. But now in 2024, they've completely gone back on that and lowered the amount of vitamins that people are supposed to get because they know how robbed our soil is of glyphosate and all these toxins. So superfoods for me began about 13 years ago when I first discovered moringa. And I started taking moringa every day, and it literally gave me more energy than I knew what to do with. It's the tree of immortality. It's a green that has like an ungodly amount of vitamin C, A, E, and you just feel it. It's great for the skin, it's great for your digestion, gives you more mental clarity and energy. It's easy to grow. We grow moringa trees on the farm now, and we turn it into a powder. You can juice it as well, although the moringa powder is probably one of the greatest superfoods on the planet. And then adaptogens are herbs, things like rhodiola, ashwagandha, things that go in your body. And I look at them like personal trainers for your body. So cortisol is your stress hormone. Most people are chronically stressed out. They have huge amounts of stress. Well, ashwagandha in clinical trials, the KSM-66 that we use in our green juice, lowers stress 27%. And that was an 8-week test, double-blind placebo, where people saw their quorum serum cortisol levels go down 27%, which is massive. So when you're not stressed, you're not in fight or flight. You're more at ease. You have more peace in your life. Fertility goes up. Energy goes up when we're not chronically stressed. Heart rate variability goes up, which I'm a big proponent of HRV and looking at that. So a lot of these adaptogens likened to ashwagandha, rhodiola for stamina. Rhodiola is one of my faves. It was used by the Vikings way back in the day before they would go into battle. They would crush up this rhodiola and take it, and it would give them energy to go to war, basically. So for me, I use adaptogens every day. It's more an intuitive practice on my end of what does this vehicle need, not taking things to take things. I used to be in that, 50 supplements a day, and check them off the box and put them in these apps and all these other things. But I think if we take too much, toxicity happens, as you know. It stores in the liver. And I believe one of the biggest reasons we have obesity epidemic is because people's livers are taxed. If your liver can't process the toxicity, well then your fat body is the mechanism for holding it. It goes into the adipose fat tissue. So my mission is to help people feel better in their bodies, and we do that with superfoods and adaptogens, organic, glyphosate residue-free. The only company in the world that I believe does as much testing and just looking at things through different microscopes to really allow moms to have the best product, because we know how important it is.
Yeah, and I think that's huge, especially we've seen reports come out even in the last few weeks about independent testing for a lot of foods that were considered health foods and the massively high rates of glyphosate they had in them. And I know this is on the radar for a lot of moms. So I think that additional layer of just peace of mind is so helpful. Also, what you mentioned about the nutrient levels in food declining. I know I've been doing this podcast for 10 years now. Early on, I had people like Chris Kresser on who talked about we should get all of our nutrients from food whenever possible. And in our most recent interview together, he said, we've now kind of reached a point where that isn't possible, at least without extreme intentionality. Like it has become difficult. And so I feel like we're now in a very much both and situation. And I love that you have seemingly found the balance of not needing to take 50 capsules of supplements a day, but finding ways to get those nutrients and micronutrients and adaptogens into your body in a way that's not stressful. And especially magnesium and adaptogens, as you talk about creating essentially more bandwidth and less overwhelm. I know that's huge for moms. I'd also love to delve into the topic of things like greens and fiber and antioxidants, because there have been certainly conflicting opinions on these circulating on social media, but statistically, Americans especially are seemingly low in these categories. So I would love to hear what you found from your research.
Yeah, so greens for me are crucial. I take our Organifi green juice every single morning. It's not the first thing I take. I drink 32 ounces of water first thing in the morning before I even get out of bed. There's a little lemon in it, and I use Redmond real salt. The reason is because, I don't know if you've seen this yet, but there's a lot of lead in salts. Number one of them, Celtic salt. So all these influencers that are saying, hey, Celtic salt's really good for you, the blue bag one, there's actually high amounts of lead in it through independent third-party testing. So Redmond real salt, I put the salt in my mouth first because there's a certain mineral that your body has to alchemize with your amylase that you don't get if you just put salt in water. So salt in your tongue. A lot of people have thyroid issues, right? It's one of the biggest things. So that really helps. Salt, water, lemon, and then I wait about 20 minutes and I'll have my Organifi green juice in the morning because I feel like being a CEO, being a new dad, 9-month-old baby girl, I need to lower stress levels just a little bit, take the edge off. And the 600 milligrams of KSM-66 ashwagandha in the green juice does that real naturally for me. It's also got chlorella and spirulina, which are two of my favorite algae for energy. Spirulina is loaded with vitamin Bs, which are great for the brain, great for the body. A lot of people are deficient in vitamin B. And chlorella is one of the greatest omega-3s that you can get. Astronauts take chlorella. And I just find that I get more energy from the greens in the morning. Helps alkalize my body, alkalizes my blood. Genetically, I was predisposed to gout. So at a young age, I got my first gout flare, like at 26, and I'm like, what's going on? Why is my blood in a dumpster fire of uric acid? What do I need to do? And that's when I was 40 pounds overweight. I lost all the weight, got in the best shape of my life, started to clean my blood up, and it all started with the notion that our pH in our body is one of the greatest things. A Nobel Prize was won in the early 1900s for healing cancer, and the way to do that is just alkalize your body. So eating and drinking things that are loaded with greens and micronutrients like our green juice can really support that. I'm not saying it's the cure for cancer, obviously, but when you start to add in more greens, you just start to feel better, I believe. And green juice is one of my favorite things.
And I will say that you guys are definitely my favorite and my go-to because the greens actually taste good too. There's like a much gentler taste than other greens powders I've tried. And so for people who aren't big fans of vegetables or for many children, I feel like it's such an easy way to just sneak that into a smoothie, or they even enjoy the taste on its own. But the pH element of what you just said is so fascinating to me because more of my research has been in the oral health realm, and an overly acidic oral health environment also contributes to things like cavities and gingivitis. But as we're now learning, the microbiome of the mouth is so intricately connected to the entire body. And a lot of, they think chronic disease states might actually start through an interaction with pathogenic oral bacteria. So I feel like that pH component is so important and not talked about nearly enough. You also, oh, go ahead.
I agree with that. I love that you're into oral health. Like that's obviously one of the biggest things. I think all disease starts in the mouth. So I haven't used toothpaste in a very long time. Like the traditional toothpaste, got rid of fluoride, obviously, but using cell salts to remineralize your teeth, baking soda, like making my own concoctions. I use a turmeric toothpaste that I make to whiten my teeth. Like it's all around us. The answers are in nature, I think, and I'm glad that you've been researching that too. That's super cool.
Oh, I love that. And you also mentioned a minute ago about the liver and how sort of a congested or ineffective liver might be linked to even obesity, but certainly to many other chronic conditions as well. I would love if you're able to expound on ways we can specifically support the liver and or help it if it's gotten congested or is struggling a little bit.
Yeah, so I look at liver as lifer. So if our liver is congested, we're not exuding as much life as possible. People have chronic fatigue, hormones are off. A lot of people come to me and ask hormone stuff. Now, obviously, I'm not a doctor, but the liver is one of the first places I start. Organifi has a great liver reset that we use. It's got triphala, it's got dandelion, and some other adaptogens in there that actually help the liver big time. I think it's one of the most underrated Organifi products, specifically because it does help with that. For me, reverse fasting or fasting at the end of the day works well because I'm a lion chronotype. I'm guessing with 6 kiddos, you probably are too. Are you an early riser? Like you wake up early?
Yes, I didn't used to be in college. I would have called myself a night owl, but the more I've gotten circadian aligned and gotten used to natural light environments, I find that when the sun is up, I'm awake and not going back to sleep.
Yeah, so that's important for liver health too, I believe. One of the things that I do as well as I stop eating. I try to quit eating at 3 o'clock every day. And then before I go to bed, I don't have anything in my stomach. And I've noticed my heart rate variability goes up like sometimes 15, 20 points because I have an emptier stomach. My body's able to heal. That's important for the liver. Fasting, getting rid of the toxins in the body. Your body does it naturally, yes. But I also believe in binders, taking things to flush out our internal environment. There's parasites everywhere. If you're not doing a parasite cleanse, I'm sure you've had doctors on talking about this. Super, super important. A lot of these parasites live in our skin. They live in our liver. Like it's pretty scary when you think about it. But as long as you're doing things to constantly detox and heal your body, you're going to be fine.
Agreed. I think that's an important caveat to note is like we've existed as humans in an environment with parasites, with things. We have a higher concentration of environmental toxins than we've ever experienced, but the body is so innately wired to heal that if we're supporting it, it knows how to do that. And it wants to always move to a state of optimal health. For people who maybe aren't familiar with some of those terms you just used, can you explain what binders are? And also how often do you do something like a parasite cleanse?
For sure. Every month I'm doing a parasite cleanse, even if it's something simple like taking black walnut, easy, 7 days in a row, depending on how I'm feeling. I used to eat a lot of sushi. Unfortunately, I don't anymore. Way too many parasites in even some of the best fish, not to mention microplastics and heavy metals, that kind of stuff. So binders, my first experience with using binders was when I moved into a house that had black mold. And I don't know, have you had somebody on talk about black mold before?
Yeah, I have had a couple guests to talk about mold, and I've seen from personal experience close friends go through that.
Yeah, like what is it? 60 to 70% of houses have mold in there now. If there's any water damage at all, do a mold test. ERMI, E-R-M-I. You can look at it that way. There's air tests you can do as well. But I had black mold, not in just one house, Katie. I had black mold in 2 houses that I was living in, and it was at the top 98% of threshold for black mold. And I realized I thought I was getting Alzheimer's at a really young age. I'm like, there's no way my brain is just not functioning like this. I would swap words out. I was having trouble with my speech. I wasn't focused. I gained a bunch of weight. So I met with a really educated and connected Chinese medicine practitioner, and she put me on this mold protocol. And I started using binders to flush out a lot of these toxins. Simple binders, like bentonite clay, things like Shilajit, right? Organifi has the Shilajit gummies. Things like that can really help spur stuff out of your body. And there's different binders for everybody. There's activated charcoal, which has been touted by Dave Asprey and alike. A lot of people talk about that. There's other Japanese forms of binders and bamboo silica and things that we can use to actually flush toxins out of the body. So big fan of stimulating methylation pathways. I sit in the sauna every single day. I do binders occasionally. I take baths with bentonite clay, borax, baking soda, ACV, constantly. I'm a big bath guy to just sweat it out because our skin is a great elimination pathway, as you mamas know. And it's one of my favorite things to do too. It's a great self-care act for moms that are so busy with their kiddos. Just take a 30-minute time out and go sit in the bath, put on some music, light some candles. I'm that guy. So I think it's super important to ignite those methylation pathways and flush out those toxins.
And I'm taking notes for you guys on the go in the show notes. So many actionable key takeaways you've already named, but you mentioned Shilajit. And I know this one has also gotten popular on social media. And I love that you guys have done a really unique formula of this, because I will say, having ordered the pure Russian Shilajit and attempting to do that for a while, it was a little rough. So talk about the benefits of Shilajit and also how you guys made it, in my opinion, so much more palatable.
Oh my God. Yeah, I think we were one of the first companies to turn it into a gummy. And now there's, lots of companies that have a gummy. I think what's different about Organifi is we use a pure resin that is the Shilajit, but they have clinical trials around it. We use 250 milligrams of the Shilajit, and we packed it into a delicious chew. So, like you said, most Russian, Shilajit, it tastes like a bottom of a shoe. You're never going to take it. You mix it in water and it tastes like a really dirty cup of coffee. Like, I'm a big coffee guy. I love that, but not that taste. So I could never get into Shilajit, at least not consistently, until I had to choose. And now I'm obsessed because I take, 2 chews twice a day. Talk about energy. Like, your energy will go through the roof. We sponsor a bunch of athletes at Organifi, and one of them is Sam Dancer, the world's fittest man in CrossFit. And he said when he started taking these Shilajit chews, he literally would start waking up at 4 a.m. in the morning with unlimited energy that he had never had previous to that. His runs got better. He just had more endurance and strength, which is pretty cool coming from a high-level athlete. So imagine what it could do for a mom. Just Shilajit. And the testimonials that we have coming in for this stuff, it's so cool. It's got over 40 minerals in it, humic and fulvic acid. It allows the body to detoxify naturally. Strength and muscle mass in a lot of the clinical trials around Shilajit as well, and mental cognitive focus. So there's a lot going on with Shilajit resin. And when you turn it into a gummy that you actually enjoy, it just makes it all the better.
I will say I'm very excited about the rise of these really nutritious gummies, because for kids, you can get them to take almost anything in gummy form if it tastes good. So as a mom, I absolutely love that. And I actually work on the side with some elite athletes as well, and on the nutrition and genetic side. So I'm going to definitely send them your way, because I've seen the benefits of Shilajit, but I feel like most of them will not love the black tar form. So I love that you have created that. Also, right now we're seeing, I feel like all over Instagram, all of these people talking about sort of their cocktails they're drinking that is magically fixing their hormones and their cortisol, and talking about ingredients like saffron, or we mentioned magnesium already, or adaptogens. And I feel like you guys were already the OGs of this. Like, these things that people are just apparently finding out about on Instagram, you've had in products already in easier to use form forever. But I would love your take on these sort of like adrenal cortisol happy cocktails that are floating all over the internet right now.
Yeah, mental wellness was one of the biggest things, as you know, for 2024. You've been on it with the guests that you've had and whatnot. So for us, it was, what is the best superfood that we can use to stimulate somebody's mental well-being? And that's when we launched Happy Drops. So it's saffron, a clinical dose of our saffron, Saffractive, which is 30 milligrams, with gotu kola, with passion flower, and a little ginger. And it's the most delicious gummy. And it's so crazy, Katie, when I tell you this, but from the black mold, from becoming a new parent, sleep deprivation, not feeling my best as a dad. And I'm not even the mom. My beautiful wife is like waking up every hour and a half at the first start of pregnancy. And it's hard. It is hard. So making something that I could take every single day and boost my mood, that's when we came up with Happy Drops, which these things are a game changer. Within the first week, I noticed that I was just smiling more for no reason. It was like and I know when you smile, it changes your physiology and you just feel better. I know that as somebody who's been into personal development, but it was real, like I felt it. And then within 2 weeks, I started noticing that I was doing things that I had put off for like 3 or 4 months. So I'm a big ADHD guy, like focus is all over the place. But with the saffron and the gotu kola specifically in this, I noticed that I was just getting more done. And I was happier. I was driving around in my car, playing music, laughing, like dancing in my car. I hadn't done that in like 10 years. So I think it's so important to focus on mental health, because what we perceive here is an external, it shows up in our external reality, as you know. So the better I feel, the better my experience. And Happy Drops really help with that, with the saffron and everything else. And it's very intentional, organic, highest quality that you can get. And it's very reasonable. I think it's $35. So in the clinical trials, it's actually shown to be more powerful than a lot of the SSRIs in the marketplace. They've done 23 clinical trials on saffron specifically. And the main problem with a lot of the SSRIs is, number one, libido. Libido kind of goes out the window from some of the research that I was looking at. But with saffron, your libido actually goes up. So it's kind of like, you know, the long list of the negative things that happen when you take the pharmaceuticals. It's more scary than the actual thing that you're dealing with. But when you take Mother Nature, it's a lot easier on your body and a lot easier on your life, for sure.
Absolutely agree. And I've shared my version or my side of that story before, of getting all the physical stuff dialed in. And it wasn't until I addressed the inner side and the mental emotional that everything really came together. And we're going to get to dive deep actually a little bit into the mindset side and some other things, like we haven't gotten to cover sleep yet and so many other things in this conversation. But you've mentioned a few of the products you have. I would love for you to walk us through kind of a picture of the whole lineup, and also hear what your daily routine is related to all of those, because I'm always so curious when someone's performing at such a high level, what their sort of key action steps are each day.
Yeah, so the day in the life, like I said, water, wake up, sun. I'm a big sun gazer too. Looking into the sun, I've been doing this for like 20 years. Don't start out right away doing this, and I'm not an eye doctor, so don't take my word on this, but just getting those red lights in my eyes. I had grandparents that wore glasses, and everybody in my family biologically, I have like better than perfect vision. So there's something to the light rays first thing in the morning when you wake up, on top of the skin and lighting up your body with hormones and everything else that the sun gives us. The vitamin D that's stored in our liver and it goes through our eyes. Like, it's so important to get the sun with the green juice. And then usually I'll take my Happy Drops and Shilajit after that, the gummies. I'll get a workout in, I'll move my body, and then throughout the day, in the afternoon, I'll have red juice, which is part of the sunrise to sunset bundle. Red juice has the cordyceps, the rhodiola, the really good beets for nitric oxide production as we age. As we get over 40, nitric oxide starts to fall off. So our body's ability to transport oxygen. And what I've noticed by taking the red juice is a huge uplift in energy in the afternoon without caffeine. So it's really cool. And it tastes amazing. It's like a fruity punch. I don't know if you've tried the red juice yet.
I have, and my kids love it too. I have a bunch who are high school athletes, and they love the red juice specifically.
Yeah, red juice is one of the best things. I do a double stack. Sometimes if I'm running like 10 miles or whatever, I'll put 3 scoops in and just load up on the cordyceps, the rhodiola, all the berries. We use a really good berry, glyphosate-free, organic. A lot of the produce even now, like blueberries and raspberries, even if it is organic, there's glyphosate on it, which is scary because, as we talked about, it's one of the biggest neurotoxins. It disrupts your gut, causes leaky gut. So then you have all these autoimmune issues because your gut's attacking itself. So getting rid of glyphosate first and foremost is one of the biggest things. The berries feed the akkermansia, which is the mucosal lining in the gut, which is our immune system, right? You know this, but if you're a mom listening to this, having red juice, even if you have gut issues, first thing in the morning, may not be a bad idea because you're getting all the berry powder, all the other stuff that's in there that feeds the akkermansia. So red juice, game changer, one of the best things. I take that in the afternoon, get my energy out. I'm a high energy guy. And then by the time night rolls around, I have my gold. So Organifi Gold, which has the turkey tail, the reishi, you get the beta glucans from the reishi, which are great for your immune system. The ginger, the turmeric, all the stuff to actually help you wind down at night, the lemon balm. you feel your stress go out the window. I've tracked it with heart rate variability on my Aura, my Apple, my Whoop. I was a big tech guy for a while, but now it's like I'm wearing my Aura now, but sometimes I just take it off because I feel like we're too, in the tech. But I've noticed a big lift in HRV, 3, 4 points. The turmeric thins the blood. It helps you detox. So the gold is awesome. Have you tried the gold yet?
I have been a huge fan of the gold for years. My kids love it too, and I definitely notice a difference, especially when I'm doing it consistently. For a long time, sleep was my big struggle, and now I feel like I have that relatively dialed in, but the gold is definitely part of the routine.
Yeah, the barbed wire thinking or waking up, especially if you're active and in your mind and you're thinking about what you have to do, it's like hard to fall back asleep, but the gold really helps with that.
It's amazing. Yeah.
Have you tried to sleep for something
Not
that's
yet.
fast? Yeah,
Not yet.
that's I think we priced that one out at 25 bucks, but it's literally the best sleep supplement on the market. It has GABA, it's got L-theanine, it feels like you were hit with an elephant tranquilizer. And there's no melatonin in it, which is great. So you don't wake up feeling groggy. I noticed an increase in mood the night before taking it as well. So super powerful stuff. So those sunrise to sunset, green, red, gold are kind of like my OGs that I take every day. I do take a plant-based protein shake every day as well. I've gone back and forth with grass-fed whey and our plant-based protein. Personally, I feel great on our plant-based protein. It's got the pea, hemp, pumpkin seed protein, which is great for removing parasites. And it's super expensive to make. That's like the most expensive Organifi product there is to produce. But it's super high quality, glyphosate residue free, obviously organic, and it tastes awesome. It tastes like a vanilla or a chocolate protein shake. So if you're looking to get more protein in, I try to get at least 50 grams of protein in first thing in the morning. And I know for moms, you talk about this, but getting protein in the morning is crucial.
Absolutely. And for kids too, especially I feel like when they get to the teenage years, that makes such a difference in mood. But as a mom, I so much appreciate that not only have you done the testing and the research and made sure everything you create is clean and packed with nutrients, but it also tastes good. And I come from the era of when I first started understanding natural health, most things didn't taste good. And I suffered through the like really, really bad tasting smoothies for a while. So I'm just so grateful that now these are so easy and my kids love them and they love drinking them and eating them without a fight. So that's huge from a mom's perspective. And for all of you guys listening, definitely stay tuned because Drew will be back and we're going to get to have another deep conversation on gaining muscle, losing fat, mindset, and sleep. Get to go deep on sleep. But Drew, for this episode, thank you so much for your time. It's absolute joy to get to talk to you. And I have been taking crazy notes this whole time with takeaways. You guys check those out in the show notes.
Thank you, my friend. Appreciate you.
And thank you for listening. I hope you will join me again on the next episode of the Wellness Mama podcast.